What's up, you guys? Team King of Games in this thing, and today I'm fulfilling a deck request. It's been like maybe 2 or 3 weeks since this guy in our comment section he asked, "Hey man, I really want to see what you can do with Crystrons. Like, I love your deck building skills," and I had to thank him because I really appreciate you guys, your compliments and your support. So he goes, like, I love your deck building skills. I want to see what you can do with Crystrons. It's a really cool deck. It doesn't get a lot of play, and I was like, you know what, man, I can do that for you because I do love fun decks and I love non-meta, basically stuff that people just don't really see the potential in it. And so, I told him I'll get to it as soon as possible. And it's been like 2 or maybe even 3 weeks since he's asked me that. So I do want to apologize that it took so long. But man, I gotta just stress to you guys that I get a lot of deck requests, and it's hard to just do all of them at once. So I kind of just go one at a time because every deck I make, it really does, like, it's an investment of time and money, so it really does take my time. It takes a lot of time for me, like, just to build this deck. If I wanted to just do it like, halfway, just halfway trying, this deck could have been made the day that he asked me. But I really wanted to take the time to build it the correct way, play test it, and check out the ratios and see what works. So this is the best Crystron deck that I can come up with the resources and cards that I have. And I really think it's a potent deck. And of course, it's coming from your boy 3 Stack, so it's going to have that creative and innovative spin. So let's hop right into the main deck. We're running a 3 SULFENIR. This guy is really, really broken. Some people could run him at 2. I like him at 3 because when I'm going first, if I draw this guy in my first 5 cards, it's going to be broken. Because what he does, not just to special itself, but and pop itself, which is broken, but he puts a Crystron in grave, which could mean instant search, instant search, special. If you send entry or impact, it's just really, really broken. He sets up a lot of good plays, so I like him. And even if, for example, you open with 2, you could just use him for him, bring him out, and then you have 2 engraved. So say, for example, they DD Crow 1, at least you have another one. So just little scenarios like that. I like him at 3. He really is powerful for so many different reasons, and I'd much rather draw into him than search him off of this burn. And then next, we're running a triple this burn. All the Crystrons, all these baby ones I'm gonna show you, they all have the same effect where you can pop a face-up card and special summon the Crystron tuner from deck, which gives this deck good synergy with Metal Foes because they would work well together. I believe so. It's a theory, but I do believe you guys can possibly create Crystron Metal Foes, and I think it would be a really, really good deck. But the only thing that differentiates is the graveyard effects. So the Crystron baby ones have effects where you can banish them from grave and perform some kind of plus. This guy lets you search Crystron monsters, and then 3 Smiger. This guy lets you search your spells and traps. And naturally, they only have traps with Crystron in its name. Perhaps in the future, Crystrons will get a spell that has Crystron in its name, so you can search it. 2 turtles and 1 Rosenix. Now Rosenix, it's good, mainly because it's just a level 4. The other thing that it's good for is just being a name, like another Crystron name. Its effect from grave where you banish it and bring out a token, it relatively doesn't come up that much. It can come with it can come with the clutch where you can banish this, bring out a token. Say for example, normal summon your turtle's effect, pop the token, and then bring out a tuner, and that's your synchro play right there. And all you have to do is just normal summon one. So it is good, but at the same time, it's not so necessary where you have to play more than one. The one, it comes through with the clutch a lot, and even when you banish it, you can always get it back. So you just keep reusing the one. And it being a level 4, it really is relevant because I also play Transmodify, so this is a good target if you want to Transmodify your Smiger and go into this guy right here. So yeah. And then the turtle's effect is just banish it from grave and special from hand, which it comes up more than once, so you do want to play 2 of him. Naturally, these last 3 guys, their effects aren't super duper on point and like broken, but in addition to their effects, which is a nice, it's a nice, basically, I'll say it this way, it's a nice benefit to have them. They really just act as Crystron names. Naturally, most of the time I just use them as names. And then for the tuners, triple Citri. I like this guy a lot. I really do. He's just really, really broken. All the tuners are just ridiculous. What you can do on your opponent's turn is just insane. This is like synchro control, similar to Yang Zings, but I honestly prefer Yang Zings over this deck just because I kind of got tied into the lore behind the Yang Zings, and that's why I love them. But 3 Citri, 2 Rich Homie Quan. Now most people play Rich Homie Quan at 1, but I like having the 2. It gives you more tuners. In addition to that, his effect really is good. I like it a lot. Similar to the Citri and all the other tuners, except you don't banish the monsters. They actually get to stay, so it's really good. So for example, if you happen to special summon your Smiger from hand, or let's say you special summon your Disfern from hand with Quan's effect and then sync with them, now that monster would actually be able to be a benefit for you in the grave versus if you got it out with Satri, it's banished now. So yeah, I like Rich Homie Quan a lot. I think you should definitely try him at 2. 3 is overkill. 1, I promise if you run him at 1, you're gonna be missing it sometimes because once you use it, he's there in grave and you're gonna have to tutor him out using another effect. So I like 2 Quans. And a 1 Rion, this is the only one that I feel like you should have to play at 1 because he just keeps bringing himself back into the deck. Why would you run more than one of him when you always have access to that same one over and over? Special from deck, sync. All right, shuffle, special from deck, sync, shuffle. Rion is broken, and he honestly at times he's a lot better than the other 2. But I just say it like this: these 3 different tuners are all good for 3 different scenarios and situations. So whichever situation you're in, that will basically determine which tuner you want to bring out for that given scenario. And then that's it for Crystrons. Then we're running a double Gofu. 3 was overkill for me because it was kind of like I was seeing it a bit too much. Now this and this is Zolkin just right off the bat. So I kind of was. That's what the theory was. That's why I was running 3 Gofus because the theory was 3 and 3. So you'll have a chance of seeing these in your open hands a lot, and it pretty much you make a free Zolkin because you special this and you don't have to normal that, and then you could still go off with your plays. But I had to cut it down to 2 because it was breaking for me. Now, what Gofu does for Crystrons is similar to the Rosenix that I explained to you. The token is a free pop, so when you special summon your Gofu, bring out 2 free tokens. Your Crystrons can use their effects to pop that token, bring out your tuner, and you've just got a ridiculous play right there. And the deck has a lot of combos. I think this deck, if you apply your skill level to it, you can learn a lot about this deck and just how it works. So there's there's X number of combos that you can perform with this deck, and I'm sure there's more combos that people will discover in the future. But if you guys want to see a combo tutorial, just let me know. I'll have to do a separate video for that. And we've got 1 Mathman and 1 Level Eater. Now, Mathman, because I do not have the 3 scrap, I think it's Scrap Reader or Scrap Recycler, whichever scrap monster that says normal summon, dump a machine from your deck to grave, and recycle machines to draw 1. That one, I don't have it. I looked through all my cards, my commons, everything. I don't have any. If I had at least 1, I would be running it. So since I don't have that scrap, which I think if you guys have that scrap monster, run it at 3. It's so powerful in Crystrons. It's just it's an automatic setup. It really can perform like crazy combos. Like there's a 2-card combo you can use with that, but since I don't have the scrap, which does make a difference for my deck, that it can be a lot better just having 3 of that monster. I'm running Mathman as a substitute until I get my hands on 3 of the scrap monster. And Mathman, he pretty much does the same thing. He dumps them and he will let you draw a card when he floats. And he pretty much, I use Mathman to send Level Eater if I didn't use Foolish Burial. And Level Eater is just ridiculous. It's too good to not play at least 1. And for spells, we've got Junction and Crystallic Potential. Now, most people actually play just double Junction and no Potential. I think if you don't play Potential, you're missing out on that draw power that really is relevant. For every Crystron Synchro monster you made that turn, you draw a card during the end phase, and they all get an attack and defense boost. So it really does help. This is when you're playing control, and this is kind of when you're reestablishing, regaining resources, trying to basically get back on top of things. So I think they kind of can be passive and aggressive at the same time. This is not really an aggressive card, but this is, and this is kind of more when you're like trying to play it safe. So I like just having 1 of each. Naturally, in other Crystron decks, you will see people playing 2 Junctions. But I do like having the different effects. And to complement with that, I'm running 2 Terraforming. Now, this is 3 Junction or 3 Crystallic Potential. So you see these very often. Like, you can hard draw it or search it off of Terraforming. And so these are just synergy combo pieces. They really do help the deck a lot. And I also run 2 Transmodify. 3 was just not doing very well. Like, originally, it was 3 Transmodify, 3 Gofus. And just having those at 3, it kind of was breaking for me, like a little bit too much. So I cut Gofu and I cut Transmodify, and I was able to actually put in some good traps. But Transmodify really is broken for a lot of different reasons. If you guys didn't know, Crystrons have levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if you have a levels from 1 to 5, your Transmodify has a lot of targets. So I think it's really good. And whatever Crystron you send off of its effect, you can banish and then search and just go off from there. It's really cool the combos you can make. And then double Twin Twisters, 1 Foolish, and 1 Soul Charge for game. Now the traps, this should be no surprise. This is the way you should play your Crystron, your trap lineup. 3 impact and 1 entry. Impact is the best one. Entry is just clutch. It comes in handy because you will be able to search out that tuner to have in your hand to activate this. And it is broken. It sets up ridiculous plays, but it's just that one of that you can search it off of your Smiger. And it does have that good banish effect, but I tested it out at 2 because naturally once I banished it, it was like, no, I miss it. But then at the same time, I was drawing into it too much. So I think 4 targets for the 3 Smigers is just perfect. And then double barrier, strike, warning, and emptiness. I just run these because I want, even for a fun deck, I want it to be able to keep up with, the meta. Because these decks that I build, a lot of decks that I have, I wouldn't even have them, honestly, if you guys didn't ask me to build the deck. So, like, probably half of my decks in my possession, I kind of play around with them for a little bit, and then after that, they collect dust. And I'll pull them out the dust every now and again when people say, hey, can I get an update on that deck? So, yeah, you guys, man, I really appreciate you guys. You guys are great, and sometimes I'm mad at myself because I'm like, that money I could have just used that on something else. But at the same time, it keeps you guys happy, and the goal here at the end of the day is make sure you guys are happy and that you guys are pleased with Team King of Games. So extra deck, Carry On Gandrex, whatever it's called, and Phoenix, and then triple Amitrix and double Quandax, basically big homie Quan. And I feel that this is like the most perfect ratio for your Crystrons. Now, what these guys do is just ridiculous. I mean, this guy is like Trishula in a way. It does target, but it's just broken. This guy is powerful against Paleozoics and artifacts because he just banishes. They all float. I have to say that as well. They all float. Like, when you make these guys, you get a lot of value. It's a good investment to make your Crystron Synchros, which naturally, a lot of times that's all I make. And especially because I'm limited to making machines most of the time, I either make these guys or I make Vermilion. And Vermilion is broken for just so many different reasons. But yeah, most times I make my Crystrons just simply because even if they leave the field, they get to float. This guy is like Monster Reborn. Any monster. So if you guys are running spicy stuff, you could run different monsters and you can just reborn them. He doesn't specify Crystron, so I think he's broken if you just put him in any deck, just having that monster reborn effect. This guy, ridiculous. He specials from your banish zone. And then I gotta make sure I got Quandax right. Oh yeah, that's even broken. But Quandax specifically specifies special Crystron. And this guy, he's a floater too. You're just ridiculous. Like, when these guys leave the field, it's kind of like Metaphors Mithrium. It's tag along, bring a friend. So yeah, that's the Crystron lineup for the Synchros, and I wouldn't change it. Quandax is a necessary at, he's a necessity at 2. 3, it's like this. You're running 3 Quandaxes, you're never really going to make 3 Quandaxes. So yeah, a Matrix, just because he's a level 5, he comes up way too much. And people really underestimate the sheer power of making this guy on your opponent's turn. He's good. Really is broken. And then for generic stuff, we got Ultimate Zolkin because it's too easy to make him this deck. Stardust Warrior because he comes up. Vermilion Dragon Mech. I like this guy a lot. I really think he is broken. And if you're running Crystrons, you should definitely test this guy out and see what he does for you because he's just broken. Trish, make it on your opponent's turn. Omega, you can make it on your opponent's turn. Crystal Wing, Clear Wing, make it on your opponent's turn. And Black Rose, make it on your opponent's turn. Something that I was testing out was Excel Synchron. It wasn't that it was bad, it was just that every other Synchro in my extra deck was more beneficial at so many different scenarios. And this guy basically just acted as another level 5 tuner to go into Zolkin. Or you could just, pretty much use him Synchro on your opponent's turn, but it wasn't good enough to keep. But it's something you guys can test out if you want. So yeah, that is my Crystron deck profile. Tell me what you guys think of it, and if there's some guy out there that's like a Crystron master, I would love to hear your opinion on the deck, and I'd love to get some tips from you because I think this deck is great, and I would love to learn more about it myself. I haven't been playing it long enough to just say, hey, this is how you play it. I just know that there's a certain way that you can build the deck to make it good, and this is kind of one of the ways to do it. So yeah, you guys have a wonderful day and stay tuned for Law Mowing Infernoids. It's coming up soon.